Happy Monday. I'm Mrs. Hofer, and today we're going to do some reading together. We're going to start out with some sight words. We have 6 new sight words this week, and you have a paper that looks like this. It has all of our 6 new words on it. So if you want to keep that handy, you can add some pictures to your cards to match the pictures on my cards to help you remember what they are. Okay, so we're going to go over our 6 new I words that have a picture to help us remember. And then you can do the words with me. And then if you have your pencil and crayons, we can add pictures to your cards. And we're going to read a story today. And let's get started. So our first word is the word go. G-O, go. And it says that we're going to pretend to hold a steering wheel and press on the gas with your foot, because then you're going to go. So we're going to get our steering wheel. G-O, go. G makes the G sound, and the O makes the O sound. G-O, go. You might have already know that one. Do you see how in our O, there's green for go, and it has an arrow in there. So if you want to add that to your cards, you can. Okay? All right, our next word is F-O-R, for. And so on this one, this looks like it's a for sale sign hanging up outside of a house. And so our action is to pretend like we're hammering the sign into the ground and say, for sale. Can you do that for me? For sale. So this is the word for. The F makes the F sound. The O and the R together make the OR sound. So it's for. Again, we're going to hammer it into the ground. For sale. And the word is for. I forgot, though, this one actually says go on green. So when you're in the car and you're at the stoplight, you're going to go on green when it switches to green. Okay, so we have go and for. And on your card, you could draw a little sign that says for sale. Okay. Our next word is here. H-E-R-E, here it is. So you're going to pretend to point to something on the ground. So you're pointing down, here it is, and pick it up. Here it is. Here it is. And on the picture, you can see there's somebody on the letter H, and they're pointing to the thing at the ground saying, here it is. Okay, and let's look at the letters in here. H makes the sound. E, here. And you don't really hear the E on the end. Here it is. Can you say that with me? Here it is. Yeah, okay. That's 3. And then our next word is the word they. They are sisters. And we're going to make a sign, a peace sign, and say they are sisters. Let's spell it. T-H-E-Y. They are sisters. And on it you'll see 2 heads of girls, and they're pointing to them. And they are sisters. And we're making the peace sign. They are sisters. The T-H makes the sound, and the E-Y makes the A sound. It kind of looks like the word the. They are sisters. We're going to go all over these one more time when we're done here too. So here's our next word. This word is soon. It will be time. Soon it will be time. So we're going to point to our watch and say, soon it will be time. And the word is soon. So we have s, and the O's make the ooh sound, and then n. Soon. And in the picture, we have a person looking at the clock. And we'll point to the watch. Soon it will be time. Everybody take your finger and point to your watch and say, soon it will be time. And the word is soon. And our last word is the word up. Up the stairs. U-P, up the stairs. So you're just going to point to the sky and say, up the stairs. But the word is up. We can kind of tap this one out because the U makes the sound and the P makes the P sound. Up the stairs. All right, are you ready to go through them one more time and see if you remember what each one is? Here we go. We're just going to go through them real quick. Our first one is go on green. Good. And then we have, we just did this one. Soon it will be time. Now you say it. Okay. We have they are sisters. T-H-E-Y, they. They are sisters. Up the stairs. U-P, up the stairs. Do you remember this one? Remember, you're going to be hammering for sale. F-O-R, for sale. And our last one is here. Here it is, and you're pointing to the ground. Here it is. H-E-R-E, here. Here it is. All right, keep practicing those sight words. You're going to get your own flashcards like this. Put them up, cut them apart, practice, 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 and see if by the end of the week you know all 6, okay? All right, we'll keep practicing every day, and now we're going to read a story about life in the polar regions. Okay, so we are going to read this book called Life in a Polar Region. So when I look at this book, I notice that they're using real pictures, not illustrations, and that tells me that this book probably is nonfiction. And I won't be able to tell until I actually start reading it to find out if they're going to give me facts about polar region or if it's going to be make-believe. But this book, probably nonfiction. The author's name is Carol K. Linden, and that means she wrote the story or wrote the words, and she wanted to teach us about the polar region. And so her purpose for writing this book was so that we could learn about the polar region. When we open the book, here's something that nonfiction books have. It's called a table of contents. And so it tells us the different parts that we're going to learn about while we read it. And then at the back of our book, in nonfiction books, a lot of times you have something called an index or a glossary that also gives more information and helps us find things quickly. So that's called the index and the glossary in the back. All right, so the name of our book is called Life in the Polar Region, in a Polar Region. What are polar regions? A polar region is a very cold place. Ice, snow, and water cover polar regions. Polar regions are found near the North Pole and the South Pole, so at the top of the Earth and at the bottom. Now our next section is called Polar Animals. Polar bears have thick, warm fur. Polar bears swim and catch fish. Seals can be gray, white, or brown. Seals have flippers that help them swim. Penguins dive into the ocean to look for food. Penguins catch fish with their strong beaks. Arctic foxes curl up in their long, bushy tails to stay warm. You can hardly even see that fox, right? He blends right in with the white snow. Okay, our next section is called polar plants. Did you think there would be plants in polar regions? Maybe that's something new that you didn't know about. Few plants live in polar regions. The cold, windy weather makes it hard for plants to grow. Moss and other small plants grow on rocks and near water. So this must be during the summertime in the polar region. But it's not very green, is it? Okay, our next section is called Living Together. White snow hides some polar animals as they hunt for food. Melting snow gives water to polar plants. Polar regions are full of life. And that's the end. Okay, so today we're going to talk just a little bit about the main idea of a story. Does anyone remember what the main idea of a story is? So I like to say the main idea is what the story is mostly about. Can you say that? The main idea is what the story is mostly about. So in that book, what was our story mostly about? If you have this paper, you can do it with me. In that story, this book was mostly about the polar region, or all about the polar region. And then I drew a little mountains and some water there so that we could do a picture with our words. Okay, and then, so that's our main idea. But inside, the author gave us some details about the polar region. And so then we have 3 boxes down here, so we can write one thing we learned or one detail about the polar region, 2 and 3. Or we can draw a picture in there about the details from the polar region story. So in our book, what was one of the key details that we learned about the polar region? Well, those little titles or topics that we had in there kind of helped, but one of them was that there were animals that lived in the polar regions, right? Yeah, that part was great, right? So we could draw some of the animals, or we could write animals that live in the polar region. And we could draw, you could draw a polar bear, right? And let's see, what other animal did it say lived in the polar region? What other? I just drew a quick little polar bear. It had penguins, right? We learned about penguins last week. So we could draw a penguin. All right, so we have, so one of the key details is that animals live in the polar region. Do you remember another detail about the story? That's right, that there are plants in the polar region. Even though there aren't a lot of them and it's hard for plants to grow, there are plants in the polar region. So another detail was that there are plants. So I could just draw some little plants or just write the word plants. They weren't like big flower plants, were they? They weren't very big. And there was moss that grew on the rocks. And so I drew some rocks on there. Okay, and then another detail from our story. The polar region is cold. That was a detail, right? It was located at the North Pole and the South Pole, so I could draw a picture of the Earth, and I can draw an arrow at the North and the South. I could also write that it's cold. Just write the word cold. Okay, so our main idea, that's what the story was most about, or what it was all about, was the polar region. And our details were that animals live there, plants can live there, and that it's cold. Very good. And then you maybe had another detail that you wanted to write about that. Okay, and I also for today, I want you to get your Arctic Animals book and maybe have mom or dad or big brother or sister read that with you, and you can color it. So these animals live in the Arctic. So this book is all about the animals that live there. Okay, so I will see you tomorrow.